We'll do just a little bit of sound check and double check if things are okay. So mic test, mic test. This is really relaxed. It's not really loud. Okay, this one's a little louder. I'm raising my voice. I'm getting really close to the mic. Okay, I think this is fine. This is acceptable. Okay. Sounds good. Excellent. Let me just double check. Oh, there we go. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Hi. Let's bring this down a little bit. Hi. Welcome. My name is Darren, and I am the founder of Tome.gg, and I am going to be building out a negotiation protocol on the Solana blockchain today. Yeah, we're gonna sprint it out, see what we can finish. I am doing this for my submission on the Solana Grizzlython project. So we'll do all the data modeling and the programming, and just um, learn it along the way. So we'll go over the idea of what I'm trying to accomplish with Tome.gg very briefly, and then we'll go straight ahead to actually building out um, uh, the remaining part of the project that I haven't started on, which is the actual smart contract on Solana. So I'll share my screen. Mm-hmm. Put this on. There we go. Okay. And right desktop. There we go. Okay. So this is Tome.gg. So it's composed of like multiple parts, but in general, it is a coaching and mentoring platform for mid to senior level software engineers. We're trying to build out tooling that's going to make it easier for you to actually work with mentors and negotiate terms and stuff. Yeah. So we currently have a white paper. You guys can check that out if you want to read more about what kind of problem Tome.gg is solving. But in general, what Tome.gg is trying to accomplish is innovating in the education space for the vision of hyper-contextualized learning. Here in the Philippines, we have student-to-teacher ratios of like 1 teacher to 60 students, 40 students. And at that ratio, that scale, it's hard to really be able to personalize and contextualize your teaching for a student. And that's the kind of vivid pain point that I'm trying to build on and solve. So the thing that Tome.gg does is it's a coaching and mentoring platform that's focused on engineering skills. So it's less about tutorials and how to use a certain product and tools, because that's already like it's populated heavily already in Coursera, Udemy, Pluralsight. So what Tome.gg wants to focus on in its coaching and mentoring is more on critical thinking, problem solving, navigating conversations that I noticed some engineers don't really have that skill at. Like they're very good in their mathematical, logical sense, rational sense, but then when it comes to like negotiating other aspects of their interactions with people, whether it's a job promotion or working with peers or working with a boss that's a little difficult, those kinds of things are challenging. So I feel like those kinds of problems can be solved through mentoring. And mentoring, it takes a lot of time for a mentor to really do good work with an apprentice. So we're building tooling around that. So one thing that we're going to be focusing on the Grizzlython is negotiating terms in a mentoring arrangement. So this is assuming that you already have acquired a mentor, and there are things that can happen during your mentoring experience where you might need to request to have certain parameters changed. So I'll share my notes here on Figma just so you guys can see the general, flow of actually working with a mentor. One of the challenging parts is actually aligning with your mentor and figuring out which things the mentor wants or is able to offer you and is guiding you towards, and which things you actually are okay with and not okay with. Maybe there are things that you still don't understand, that's why you don't want that kind of thing. So alignment is really important, especially in a very intimate kind of engagement with a mentor. So there might be some situations where a mentor wants to work with you for only a month, but you might want to ask if it's doable to actually have a mentoring engagement for 3 months, right? Or you might want to change your session frequency from twice a month to maybe once a week, and negotiating terms about session duration. So a kind of conversation might be like, hey, um, the mentor wants to meet with you twice a month because that's what they think is a reasonable kind of pace for checking in with you with your work. But let's say you want to have really focused mentoring kind of attention. So you might say, hey, I want to have a mentoring session every other day. But they might be say like, okay, I'm open to considering that, but then the session duration has to be reduced, right? From instead of like 1 whole hour, let's break it down to 20 minutes. So we have to be very efficient with using our time. Okay. And because you want to actually be more efficient with your time, your mentor might negotiate for you to be more precise with your reports and your language when you write your updates. So that might be the primary thing to focus on first. So you might say, okay, I'll do that. But then because you're requesting this from your mentor, you're having some kind of negotiation. So what happens when people default on their responsibilities? Whether you default and you don't do your practicing of your daily stand-up reports more carefully, more precisely, or your mentor defaults and doesn't actually show up, right? So the mentor might say, okay, if I don't attend, if I fail to show up, I'll put an additional stake of like, you say 5 Solana. But what happens if you fail to do your responsibility as an apprentice? Then you might say, okay, I'll set a stake of like 1 Sol if I fail. Your mentor might say, okay, maybe not consecutive mistakes will trigger the failure of your end of your deal. Instead of consecutive failures, let's make that total failures, right? And instead of just 1 Sol, let's raise it to 8 Sol. So it should be a strong enough deterrent to prevent you from actually doing it, right? So the whole goal is to negotiate such that you both find the space where both of you are aiming for mutually beneficial and mutually agreed upon terms for more frequent sessions, right? So you might say, okay, total strikes instead of consecutive failures. I'll increase the Solana stakes to like 8 Solana. However, if I have consistently performed well in 7 days of the DSU, let's reset the counter, right? If I failed 2 times, I performed very well for the next 7 days. Let's reset the counter to 0, right? That's acceptable. Your mentor might say, okay. And if ever this engagement fails, if ever you fail your end of the bargain or I fail my end of the bargain, let's default again to the twice a month kind of agreement. And you as an apprentice might be like, okay, that sounds good. I don't lose my mentoring approach. I was able to negotiate, and now I get to have the opportunity to actually work with my mentor every other day, right? And people involve themselves in the stake, right? Yeah, and then now that you're working every other day, you basically have a way to record, your performance on whatever your mentor is trying to teach you, right? Whatever goal you're trying to accomplish. So we'll skip this part because we're not going to be focusing on this one. What we're focusing on for the Solana Grizzlython is the negotiation protocols, right? So there's some option here to check out the demo negotiation. And in this page, this is basically the web app that allows you to interact with the smart contract that we're going to be building out later. So here you can see coming senior software engineer. This is what the apprentice's goal is, right? Be confident in leadership, management, and security. These are the things that you want to do. And then what you're trying to accomplish here is the alignment negotiation. Yeah. Okay. So, alignment negotiation. Mhm. Yeah. So at this part, you get to decide. Okay, what are we negotiating for? Are we trying to increase the full duration of the mentoring program? Are you trying to make it more frequent, or are you trying to extend the duration? Whichever, right? And what Tom.gg would be building out as part of our tooling and platform for coaching and mentoring are smart contracts that facilitate that negotiation. So, for example, one negotiation protocol that we're building is the Daily Stand Up Transparency Negotiation Protocol, or TNP 1.0, right? So, this is there's not a document for it yet. It's still something to follow. But the general principle of it is you exchange your transparency and consistency as an apprentice in exchange for, as a bargaining chip to your mentor, right? It's a way for you to say, hey, I will live by these expectations just so that I match the expectations of my mentor in a more visible, more observable manner. And I would like to have more frequent sessions if that's possible. So, as you get into the negotiations, your mentor might already have a current preference, let's say twice a month, right? And that's something that you're trying to negotiate for. So you might say, hey, I want to propose having mentoring sessions maybe once a week instead of twice a month. Can we have it every day or every other day, right? So you get to choose those things. And you can negotiate for how many number of failures you would allow for yourself. For example, I have really good internet. I don't see myself really failing to attend that much. I mean, failing to do my daily stand-up consecutively or a lot. So I'll say maybe 3, right? Or let's say I'm in Nigeria, I'm in Africa, my internet's really unstable. Can you make space for me to not be able to do my daily stand-up reports maybe 10 times? Because internet infrastructure is difficult on my end, right? And let's say I'm in Nigeria, internet gets really choppy. So instead of total mistakes, can we do consecutive mistakes? Because I know I'll be able to update them accurately. I just need to find one off day to actually submit my daily stand-ups, right? So these kinds of parameters of the negotiation are encoded into the TNP 1.0 protocol definition, and it is programmatically defined as a smart contract on Solana. And eventually it can have like improvements. So we talked about how to reset the counter, at least from the apprentice point of view. You can have an option of no resetting. It's like a hard limit, or it will reset upon consecutive successful practice, right? So that's fascinating. You might go through this once, you say, okay, it'll reset, but then you fail, right? You failed. Maybe the next time your mentor is going to be like, okay, we can negotiate again. Maybe instead of every other day, maybe it's going to be once a week, right? Maybe once a week. But this time, there's no more resetting, okay? This is a hard limit. When you fail this, that's it. Like, this is it, okay? So those are negotiation parameters that can work. And from a mentor's perspective, okay, with it becoming more frequent, then how many times might I be able to accidentally miss my mentoring sessions? And missing your sessions as a mentor is different from asking to reschedule, right? So those kinds of nuances can be described in the TNP 1.0 document that both of you guys would be agreeing to by signing on this contract. And then the mentor could also have a reset option, which could say, from an apprentice perspective, there's no reset option. Like, you're enforcing there's no reset option, or it's only initiated by me. Like, I will really, it's really up to me. I should not be coerced by the mentor to reset the counter. But yeah, so these kinds of reset options can be further detailed in the TNP document, the protocol. Then eventually you have a stake, right? So I think a fair kind of ratio here is like 1:5, right? So from an apprentice point of view, more of my stake is the visibility, the kind of privacy that I have about my growth, and I'll have it, in public,